Just in, California coastline changed after new shocking nature event. Sirens echoed across the coast as residents watched cliffs crumble and new land rise from the sea, a transformation no one saw coming.
The study found here in Southern California, Newport Beach and San Clemente are two of the most at-risk areas. The researchers are warning of serious impacts.
In late August, the first images from Sentinel-2 satellites leave researchers speechless. A 12-kilometer stretch of California's central coast has changed shape almost overnight. Cliffs once stable for decades have collapsed inward, while new sandbars and ridges jut into the Pacific like freshly built embankments. Local fishermen report new currents, strange whirlpools, and a faint smell of sulfur drifting on shore. What alarms scientists most isn't what disappeared, but what appeared.
Beaches across the state now look like this, mostly cobble and rocks, little to no sand, which beyond just making a beach enjoyable is critical to protecting these bluffs and slowing coastal erosion.
A strip of raw, pale ground now extends into the surf, still steaming in the cool morning air. Seismic charts show a series of shallow tremors, not strong enough to cause visible collapse, yet perfectly aligned with the shifting coastline. It's as if the land itself is breathing, expanding, and contracting beneath the waves. Emergency drone surveys confirm it's not erosion or storm damage. The seabed has physically lifted, pushing the shore outward. Geologists scramble to identify the cause, aware that this kind of uplift usually precedes one of two things: a massive quake or something volcanic.
Now a growing conundrum: how to save the state's crumbling coastline.
The volleyball court was where the rocks were.
Marianne and Duke Stroud live smack on the beach in the city of Oceanside, which has lost 45 feet of sand since 2000.
And what triggered this sudden shift has scientists completely divided. Divers descend into the churning Pacific, cameras cutting through murky water as light bends in strange ways. The seabed below looks disturbed, sand rippling outward in circular patterns like shockwaves frozen mid-motion. One diver's gauge spikes. The temperature here is nearly 15 degrees higher than the surrounding sea. Then they see it. Plumes of shimmering gas escaping from cracks in the ocean floor. Not volcanic smoke, but methane, and it's leaking fast. The bubbles rise in columns, bending the surface light above like a mirage. When samples reach the surface, labs confirm this methane pocket is ancient, trapped for thousands of years under tectonic layers that are now collapsing. Experts warn that such releases can alter coastal terrain in days, not centuries. However, the strangest discovery comes when the divers resurface to check their footage.
For example, these images enabled him to see the western U.S. breaking up and evolving over time.
Researchers also map the anomalies spread, expecting a random pattern, but instead, the data forms a perfect arc curving toward Monterey Bay. Drone footage confirms it. The boiling sea isn't a single event. It's a moving front, creeping northward at nearly half a mile per hour. Fishermen report dead marine life washing ashore and a low humming sound beneath the waves. Seismic sensors nearby detect vibrations too uniform to be natural quakes, like pulses from a pressure valve deep underground. Caltech's geothermal experts issue an urgent bulletin. This could signal a magma intrusion, rising toward the crust for the first time in recorded history along this stretch. If it breaches, it won't just reshape the seafloor. It could trigger a chain reaction affecting the entire California coastline. And the deeper they dig, the geological map starts rewriting itself.
Text is now in limbo.
If more isn't done to change this, what's the future of this beach?
There is no future. This house is gone.
Gas analysis from the hidden fault shocks the research team. Isotopic ratios show traces of primordial material dating back to the early Earth's mantle. This isn't just tectonic activity, it's a breach into geological layers untouched for billions of years. Thermal imaging reveals expanding fissures branching inland like veins of heat beneath the Monterey Peninsula. Instruments detect low-frequency tremors every 20 minutes, a pattern suggesting a deep, continuous release, not isolated bursts. Emergency teams start modeling potential ground deformation scenarios, uplift, sinkholes, even localized steam vents forming onshore. But every simulation breaks down. The readings don't align with anything on record. The coast isn't eroding or collapsing, it's evolving, reshaping under forces that predate California itself. When seismic drones probe deeper, they capture an impossible, glowing formation below.
The job is to find the places where water from the mountains has traveled underground to the valley. But he says that water is running out.
So it's like a stair step.
Across the Pacific, satellite heat maps detect matching thermal spikes off Alaska, Japan, and Tonga, as if the planet's mantle pulse is synchronizing. Volcanic gas monitors from Indonesia to Chile began logging identical helium-3 ratios, confirming a shared deep Earth source. This isn't coincidence, but more of a connection. Earth's inner systems, once thought independent, appear to be reacting in unison. At Caltech, models project a rising plume stretching thousands of kilometers beneath the Pacific plate, nudging the crust upward in slow motion. That means the California coastline's transformation might just be the visible symptom of something massive unfolding below. Researchers warn that if the mantle plume continues westward, it could eventually reshape subduction boundaries, the very edges that define continents. The question isn't how it started anymore, it's how far it'll reach before stabilizing. And suddenly, those shifts start showing up across the entire Pacific Rim. A fresh satellite pass reveals the unthinkable, yet we now see that California's coastline is still moving. Entire ridgelines have shifted centimeters inland, while offshore shelves are still rising from the sea floor like slow-motion waves of rock. The movement is just too coordinated to be classified as erosion or a landslide. It's more like continental-scale deformation. Scientists at NASA's JPL confirm a continuous upward bulge stretching from Big Sur to Point Reyes, forming new topography in real time. Every updated scan shows the same thing: land expanding, water retreating. If the uplift continues, parts of the coastline could permanently reconfigure, turning old beaches into cliffs and old cliffs into islands. The implications are staggering. No known fault explains it. No model predicted it. Something deep, ancient, and global is forcing Earth's crust to breathe. And what rises next could permanently redraw the map of California itself.
Measure the elemental composition of the rocks and soils, and then we can beam those data back to Earth. And we've been doing that since the 1970s.
New satellite passes confirm what eyewitnesses can already see. California's coastline is expanding again. Jagged ridges push through the surf where open water stood days earlier. Steam vents hiss across the newborn rock, and waves crash against land that didn't exist last week. It's not an illusion. It's tectonic creation unfolding in real time. Samples collected by research vessels show rapid mineral crystallization, the same kind seen at mid-ocean ridges where new crust forms. But here, it's happening on the continental shelf, an event never documented in modern history. Coastal residents are evacuated as new fractures open inland, releasing heat and gas. Helicopters capture glowing fissures under the ocean's surface, spreading like veins of light. The coastline isn't just shifting, it's building. Whatever's reshaping California's coast may just be getting started. Coastal research stations begin reporting something they've never seen before: a sharp, coordinated spike in magnetic interference stretching from San Luis Obispo to the Farallon Islands. At first, analysts suspect solar activity, but space weather data shows the sun was calm. What's disturbing is that every magnetic sensor along the transformed coastline surged at the exact same second, as if responding to an underground pulse. Pilots approaching Monterey Bay report compass phase drift of nearly 12 degrees, forcing aircraft to switch to manual navigation. Offshore survey ships describe faint vibrations that don't register as quakes, yet repeatedly knock out their instruments. Even NOAA buoys flicker offline, their internal gyroscopes overwhelmed by oscillations no model can currently explain.
Fewer sandy beaches, the state tourism industry could also take a hit. The authors of the study say beach maintenance, specifically dune restoration, will be a key part of prevention. Dune restoration is a process that involves building up the dunes on our beaches.
When researchers overlay the magnetic disturbance map on the newly uplifted ridges, the alignment is perfect. The interference is strongest along the same path as the expanding crust. Something beneath California isn't just shifting rock, it's generating an electromagnetic signature strong enough to disrupt technology across miles of coastline. If that signal grows, it could reveal what's actually driving the planet-wide changes.
California in 10 million years, beachfront property in the high Sierras, that's really not my title. That's what the aquarium turned my title into. Right? The real title was, I guess California really will fall into the ocean. So,
Then, a deep-sea drill ship positioned above the expanding ridge begins lowering core samplers through newly elevated seabed. The first few meters show young, glassy crust, expected for newborn terrain. But at 19 meters down, the drill suddenly loses its resistance as it's just plunging into empty space. The crew halts operations instantly. Sonar mapping confirms the unthinkable. It is indeed a vast hollow cavity running beneath the uplift, and not only that, it is stretching laterally for almost 3 kilometers. Inside that cavity, temperatures spike to levels that are just impossible for normal seawater contact, indicating pockets of superheated silicate fluids trapped under immense pressure. Microphone sensors detect rhythmic thumping in a repeating compression sound, like liquid rock being forced through a tightening passage. When robotic arms lower thermal probes, their casings come back warped, edges softened by exposure to intense heat. The breach zone isn't just empty, it is actively expanding, and because of that, eating into the surrounding crust. With every passing hour, the cavity grows, fracturing old seabed and replacing it with a churning mixture of molten material and gas. Teams worry this is the earliest stage of a brand new tectonic plate boundary forming in real time. And as the breach spreads, distant sensors detect a synchronized global response. Across the Pacific Rim, seismic stations begin picking up identical tremor signatures, slow rolling waves too coordinated to be independent quakes. Japan's meteorological agency reports subtle, deep mantle vibrations matching those detected off California. Chile's volcanic observatories record rising helium-3 levels, which is the same primordial isotope tied to the hidden reservoir beneath Monterey Bay. Even Alaska's Aleutian Arc shows unusual thermal spikes, forming a chain of matching hotspots thousands of miles apart. Researchers connect the dots. These signals form a ring. A massive, slow, synchronized pulse circulating beneath the entire Pacific plate. Instead of isolated events, Earth's mantle appears to be shifting as a unified system. California isn't the trigger. It's one of the first visible expressions of something deeper, older, and far more widespread.
The October oil spill off the coast of Huntington Beach ramped up calls to end offshore drilling near California.
Our ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth to explain what that would take and why federal laws make it so challenging.
Naval vessels in the Central Pacific detect unusual water displacement patterns, like subtle bulges rising beneath open ocean. Satellite gravimetry reveals slight changes in mass distribution across multiple subduction zones. The planet isn't destabilizing, it's rebalancing. Something in the mantle is reorganizing forces that have been locked in place for millions of years. If these pulses intensify, the Pacific coastline may transform on a continental scale. Days later, deep-sea drones tracing the newly formed crust detect a massive cavity stretching beneath the Pacific shelf, a hollow zone expanding outward. It's not magma-filled, not solid rock, but something in between. Superheated liquid rock mixed with trapped gases. The readings suggest that the process isn't stabilizing, it's accelerating. Coast Guard patrols record plumes of vapor rising miles offshore, forming mirage-like distortions on the horizon. Whatever's growing under the waterline is moving west, away from California, carving a hidden ridge into the ocean floor. Scientists can't agree whether it's a new subduction fracture or the beginning of an entirely new crustal plate. Instruments fail near the perimeter, disrupted by powerful magnetic interference. For the first time, researchers admit they don't know what they're watching, only that Earth seems to be building something. And if it keeps spreading, how much more do you think California can take? Let us know in the comments.